Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the FPS series. In this episode, we're going to add a slight sway rotation to the weapon when the player looks around. So right now when we look around, the weapon is almost like on a stick. It's just nothing changes. It's always pointing in the same direction. We have our idle movement, which helps a little bit, but that kind of looks unnatural. So let's head to our weapon controller that we were editing in the last episode, and we're going to add some more variables at the top. So like last time we added our idle sway. This time we're going to be adding some for our look sway. And we're going to need two different variables. One for storing the previous rotation of our camera, and that's what's going to determine the movement that we have within the weapon, and then the camera rotation rate. Both of those will be vector 3. They're going to be zeroed out to start. This is just going to allow us to track how much our camera is moving. What's the delta of that movement? Then we can add some more export variables. We're going to make a new group. Call this look sway, and we have 3 variables to add. First is a divisor. This helps determine how quickly the weapon is going to catch up, how much lag there is. Then we're going to set a max rotation, and then when we rotate the weapon, we actually need to adjust the position ever so slightly, and we'll see why that is in just a little bit. Now to do this, we're going to create a new function, move down below our idle sway, and we're going to call this update look sway. Delta for our float, get our delta value, and we're actually going to return a vector 3 with this, and we're going to adjust the idle sway so we do the same way. Just a little bit better organization, I think. So within this, we need to first check if we have a camera, and remember we are setting the camera up here in an export variable. We need to make sure we have a camera. We're missing our return. That's why that's freaking out over there. Check if we have a camera. If we don't, we don't sway. We need to get the current camera rotation, and that is from the camera global rotation. And then we calculate how much that rotation has changed. We get a rotation delta, that is the rate of change, by getting the camera rotation and subtracting our previous camera rotation, and then setting our previous camera rotation to the camera rotation it currently is. So when we first run this is going to be 0. So the camera rotation that happens is the rate of change, and then we're just comparing the previous frame rotation to the current frame rotation. Because we've set a max rotation, we don't want to just rotate too much. We want to be able to control that. We're going to clamp that rotation delta. So our look lag, our look sway rotation max is actually in degrees. So we're going to swap that to radians to get the max radians, and clamp our X and Y rotation values to the negative and positive of that radian value that we get. And then for our Z rotation, we don't want to do anything with Z rotation. That'll just kind of look weird. So we're going to zero that out. And then finally, we're going to lerp our camera rotation rate using our rotation delta. Now, because we're working within rotations and we're working within a X and a Y axis, we also need to normalize that. So we're going to normalize that by also keeping in mind our max rotation. That's how we get our normalized pitch, the normalized yaw, and then we're going to get a look position by just taking these two values and then multiplying it by our scale. Now, unlike our look sway, we're going to return this new position offset here so we can run this function, and then back up in our idle sway, because we're going to keep these all separate. We're going to make our idle sway pass along that offset too. So we'll go back to vector 3 here, and then down at the bottom, we'll return our idle offset. And instead of applying the idle offset within this function, because we're going to be adding different offsets and different things, we need to make a new function to just combine all of these. So we can call this apply offsets or something like that. And for our code here, we have our current weapon model position. Eventually we'll be adjusting our rotation as well. We'll cut that line. We're going to move that line into our apply offsets. And then let's create some just variables here to hold this. We'll call this idle offset again, and then update idle sway delta. We need to run our delta there, and then var look offset update look sway with delta. There we go. So now we're just running those functions and getting those values, and then we're going to combine this all at the end. So look offset, save that, and then we need to apply offsets. We got an error here. So we were returning and it was unhappy with that because we swapped that out. So that should be fixed. We'll go back to process, and instead of just running idle sway, we can do apply offsets, and that really should be localized as well, passing delta as well. Sorry, that might have been a little bit confusing, but it just seemed to me that that was a better way to organize that. So we have different functions here for sway, look sway, everything is combined, and apply offsets. We run apply offsets in the process function. So values that I think are working pretty well for this are a divisor of 30, max rotation of 30, and then the scale of 0.2. We're going to run that, and then you can see how that looks. So we've got our idle sway, and if we look around left and right, we have some movement in our weapon. So you can play with those values to get exactly what you're looking for. And now that I'm looking at this, I do think I need to update the mouse capture, because I'm getting that a little bit of jumpiness. So we'll have to do a video on that too, because we can smooth that out. Now let's actually, one more thing before we wrap this up, because maybe you want to turn these off and on. Let's go ahead and do that, because that's pretty easy add. We're going to want to do that later on. So export group. Let's do select visual juice, and we'll do another export. We'll call it idle way. I don't think we've named that yet, have we? Boolean true export var look sway boolean equals true. I never do this the same. There we go. True. And then down here in our apply offsets, let's do update idle if idle sway, else should just be vector 0. Vector 3, 0. And then if, did I say look swap? That's not going to work. Let's go adjust that. Look sway, we're not swapping. Look sway, else vector 3, 0. I keep saying swap. There we go. Now, if we wanted to turn these off, let's run this. So we got our movement, and then let's turn off sway. So there's our sway, and if we turn off idle. So that's what we started with. No movement at all, and we turn those on, much better. So play with those values. As always, you can get the source files for this or any episode in this entire series on my Patreon. We are going to continue the visual juice, probably with strafe tilt before we get to the bobbing motion. Until then, thanks for watching, and as always, keep creating.